The island story of this episode is all about Boone and the attempts to save him, and spoiler alert, he dies at the end of it. So you'd think they'd want to give him another flashback to give us some final understanding of him and make us feel that loss, maybe even give some meaning to that big deal that was made over his having to let go of Shannon. But no, it's a Jack flashback. This is his third. See why we felt like Jack as the hero was being shoved down our throats sometimes? Anyway, he's getting married and his fiancée Sarah shares the story of how he fixed her spine after a car accident. And let Shannon's father die in the process, as we'll find out, but let's not mention that because it might make him seem like not much of a hero. Sarah is played by Julie Bowen, who's now on Modern Family. God, I love that show. Jack plays the piano for a bit, apparently just so Matthew Fox can show off that he can do it. Jack's worried about whether Christian will show up, just in case we didn't already get that we're supposed to blame him for all of Jack's character flaws. One also wonders where his mother is, but apparently no one cares about her because she's never mentioned. Christian shows up and Jack admits that he can't write his vows and is worried that he's only marrying Sarah because he saved her. There you have it, the closest thing the show will give Jack for a flaw. He's just too damn good. Christian talks about how he's not good at letting things go, which makes no sense in this context, but it works with the island story, so who cares? At the wedding, Jack admits that he didn't write any vows and just talks on his own about how much he loves Sarah, though of course he has to start this by sounding like he's dumping her, because that's just how he rolls. He also says that Sarah fixed him rather than the other way around, a particularly obnoxious set of weasel words that means nothing once you start thinking about them. Yeah, that was all worth losing our last chance to get to know Boone better. Jack sets to work on Boone and sends Kate to the beach to get any alcohol that Sawyer's got. She proceeds to just stand there for about 2 more minutes until even Jack snaps out of her love spell and tells her to do it again. He then promises Boone that he'll save him. Jin is still working on the raft while everyone else takes a break, which just serves to remind us poor dumb dopes about the situation between him and Sun. Kate gets the alcohol, and Sawyer, not being an idiot, is the first to question Locke's story. Sun gets a stick for Boone to bite on as Jack sets his leg, and has to suffer through Jack bringing up her herbal remedies for it. Our hero. Kate falls and breaks some of the alcohol bottles, so add that to the number of things that she's touched and destroyed. She finds Claire, whose response to her contractions has been to wander into the jungle alone. You just have to make everyone look stupid at some point, don't you? Claire is also oddly insistent that she's not having the baby, taking it to almost Peggy Olsen levels. Jin hears Kate calling for help and understands enough to take a message to Jack. Jack can't make a good needle out of bamboo, but Boone does tell them his blood type. Meanwhile, Shannon is conveniently taken out of the story by Saeed making a private picnic for them. Charlie can't find anyone who knows their blood type and fits, but Sun makes a better contribution by getting a sea urchin to make a needle. I know this isn't really Charlie's fault, but it still feels like part of the pattern, doesn't it? So Jack is forced to use his own universal donor blood. Jin arrives and there's a bit of an awkward moment between him and Sun before he realizes that she can conveniently translate about Claire. Jack's already hooked up to Boone, so he gives instructions to Charlie. Oh dear God. Boone wakes up and talks a bit about the plane and the hatch, but he can't get much out before passing out again. Useless to the end. Shannon tells Saeed about her and Boone's real relationship, though not about how they actually slept together, because that's still kinda creepy. Charlie gets back to Kate and Claire, and because it's Kate, he gets to be the voice of reason for once, explaining that there's no way to get Claire and Jack together, so Kate has to do the delivery. Jack realizes the blood is pooling in Boone's leg, meaning something crushed it, and Locke lied about what happened. Kudos to the makeup guys, who really nailed Jack's blood-deprived pallor here. He sends Hurley to get Michael. One more and this will officially be a slumber party. The only way to save Boone is to cut off his leg using a cargo door from the airplane.
What about the axe? You can't use the axe.
Oh, whatever you say, great hero Jack, no explanation required. Claire tries to hold her breath to stop the baby from coming, thinking that it'll know she was going to give it up. Well, at this point I was half expecting it to come out as a full-grown man, so maybe she's not far off. Boone starts coughing up blood, meaning it's too late for cutting off his leg to help him, but Jack goes ahead anyway, even stealing Locke's catchphrase, because this episode's all about how his only flaw is that he cares too damn much. Boone wakes up and says he knows there's no way to save him, and he's letting Jack's promise go. So there you have it, the last act of the show's equivalent of Harry Kim is far more noble than anything Jack's done. Claire's baby is born, and I appreciate them making it look like a real newborn. Boone starts to ask Jack to tell Shannon something, but dies before he can specify anything. We'll never find out what he wanted to say, and again, the show itself raised the question, so to me, it's fair game. But don't feel too sad, as Boone isn't really dead, he's just become a vampire. Seriously, check out The Vampire Diaries. It's much, much better than a cash-in on Twilight has any right to be. The episode's final scene is very effective, played out silently with Michael Giacchino's always awesome music as everyone admires the baby and Jack informs Shannon about Boone. Finally, Jack declares that he's off to look for Locke, who has some explaining to do. Well, knowing this show, it won't be much. My score for Do No Harm is 9 out of 10. The island story works incredibly well, with the juxtaposition of birth and death occurring very naturally and becoming quite moving by the end. Unfortunately, the flashback keeps the episode from being one of the show's best. It's completely dull, and also completely off the point from what's happening on the island the first time that's happened. Plus, I remain baffled at the refusal to allow Boone a proper flashback send-off. Ian Somerhalder gave an interview right after this episode aired that he hadn't been told a thing about his character being killed, and only found out when he read the script, so you could even make the case that there was some kind of personal animosity involved. For the record, I don't believe that, and there's even a far more likely casting conspiracy theory coming up next season, but it's worth mentioning. And once again, if you haven't seen Somerhalder's current show The Vampire Diaries just because of the whole Twilight thing, I highly recommend you do so right now.